With how advanced level editing has become in Geometry Dash, it's pretty hard to imagine a time where we had limitations. With almost every single level prior to 2.2 having some nitpicks, such as potential camera movements in some portions or just simply better decoration, yeah, no level's perfect. Although in absolutely no circumstance would you use that as a negative to downplay a level. Ironically enough, that's probably one of the best compliments that you could ever give the creator of a level, being held back by the actual game rather than themselves. And that had me thinking, what level is too far ahead of its time? It didn't take me too long to come to the conclusion that RobTops' very own Theory of Everything 2 is one of the greatest examples we have for being too ahead of its time. Theory of Everything 2 starts off with some orb gameplay that's lit up by neon colorways dependent on the colors that you chose coming into the level. As opposed to the gameplay being a selling point here, we're actually going to talk about the atmosphere for a little bit when it comes to this level. Theory of Everything 2, like the actual song, starts off with the piano that we're all familiar with. The intro of the song is not instrument heavy whatsoever, so therefore the gameplay isn't action packed either. Now the actual concept of pacing would put you right to sleep if there wasn't any variety, so that's why as the song experiences a bass drop, so does the level, because we get hit with a ship that's 2 times speed while we have to navigate invisible blocks while switching gravity. If you're just playing through RobTops levels, this segment is ridiculous. This is emphasized even more if you consider yourself a completionist and want to get all of the golden coins, because in my opinion the alternate pathway is even worse. I love the pattern for RobTops 3 demons here. The intro is super simplistic, yeah you might die here and there, but practice mode exists, and then after that he hits you with something that you're gonna have some issue with. In Theory of Everything 2, he makes up for the sudden spike in difficulty by slowing it down with this UFO. A key component to getting better at Geometry Dash are click patterns, and this UFO is a great example of this. We're right back onto 2 times speed gameplay, although this time we're the ball. We're getting hit with fakes and the gameplay is loosely syncing up with the music. This is ball gameplay in my opinion at its best. Yeah, I prefer a bit more of a challenge, but because RobTops levels can't be the most difficult thing in the world, I love this. We're flowing effortlessly, we're getting hit with fakes, it's a recurring theme in almost every single level in the game, but I can't get enough. As we go back into the UFO with now a 1 time speed, it's pretty safe to say that this is similar to what we just discussed, although switched up with a mini variant of the UFO this time. As the instruments of Theory of Everything 2 reach a bit more of a higher pitch, it's nice to see the background lose its color, because as soon as that punch comes right back into the song, we're right back to the background being eye candy. In terms of the gameplay, it's a bit cluttered, but in a good way. This level is meant to be difficult. There's some platforms, you're not meant to go on most of them, you're getting hit with fakes, although even one practice mode, you'll get the hang of this. The punch of the song leaves, the piano reintroduces itself, and you know what that means when it comes to Theory of Everything 2, we're getting introduced to a new segment. Now with this little camera movement here, it can definitely be awkward in some levels, although RobTop fortunately enough gives us enough of a breather. RobTop could have added artificial difficulty by making this open space less open or just significantly shorter. That would have sucked, people would have hated that. Now we can't say that the invisible platforms here add difficulty. The only reason I mention that in the introduction is because of the speed that we're on. Now difficulty's made up for when it comes to precision. Yeah, going upside down here into normal gravity, not too bad, but going upside down on a mini ship, oh man, when I first started playing this game, don't even get me started. We then go back into the normal ship, we have to split between these 2 invisible saws, but that's not that bad, sounds worse than it actually is, and then after that we're right back into normal cube gameplay. Let's just speak about this segment for what it's worth. We're about to build up to a massive climax of the level, being the wave, so this part's not too tricky. RobTop wants you to get involved, he can't have too many choke points, it's a mainline level. With how this portion of the level's built, you would think that we're just meant to ascend vertically, although how the camera moves hints towards the fact that we have to drop through and pay attention to these invisible blocks. And then as the song peaks, so does the level. This wave into a memorization ball into another wave is one of the best segments in any RobTop level. With how the song flows so effortlessly here, I'm glad that the gameplay is the exact same. RobTop could have slowed down or maybe even made the ball section faster, but we're still just going to carry at 2x speed, and that's what I love. Now, I'm not going to say that this portion's relatively easy, although I do appreciate that the click patterns are super easy and satisfying to learn. Then when it comes to this awesome memorization ball segment, I'm not going to necessarily touch on the difficulty because it's in its name. It's memorization, that's up for you to decide, although when it comes to how it looks, it's once again correspondent on the colorways that you chose coming into the level. Here's the colors gaming purple and pink, and then here's a monstrosity because I felt like it. We navigate through that ball section that we were just talking about into another wave segment, more reminiscent of its 1.9 counterpart, blast processing with the click pattern, then sprinkled in with our second golden coin. Then after that wave, we don't slow down, we keep the 2x speed going, this time with the mini ship, where precision is key once again in arguably one of the level's more popular choke points. When it comes to the gameplay, the level's completely dead. The background goes as dark as possible, highlighting the objects that we have to navigate through. In terms of gameplay, follows the exact same pattern, as the instrumentals are limited, this time with the Eric Van Wilderman quoted mystery piano, the gameplay is as simple as it gets, plus RobTop had to make up for the part that we've all been waiting for. We're getting up to those mid to high 70s. That means that we're up to the ship segment that I hinted towards earlier, and as a viewer, you were obviously waiting for. With how difficult this segment is, arguably RobTop's most difficult portion in any of his levels, people don't know how to feel about this. When it comes to my opinion on this portion, I think that context matters. Every single time I've heard someone complain about this segment, they fail to really hit the nail on the head, because subconsciously they hate this segment due to the level's overall difficulty. Let's just forget everything prior to the wave, ball, wave, ship portion. If you're trying to complete Theory of Everything 2 for the first time, it will be no understatement to say that anything past 70% will have you shaken in your seat. So then the sudden dissatisfaction that you receive when you inevitably die at this very difficult ship segment, you're going to be pissed off. If what we had done prior was easier, i.e. the beginning of the level for example, you wouldn't be hating on this portion at all. It's only because of where it's segmented and because of what we had to previously do. No one talks about that. So although it's more than valid to say that this portion's difficulty spike is unjustified, the reason on why people hate it needs to be specified a bit more. As we navigate our way through that ship segment, we end up getting hit with gameplay oddly reminiscent of the cube that we saw right before the wave. Although you can basically skip that entirely by going through the hidden coin route, which I've discussed in previous videos to be one of RobTop's easiest coins in the entire game. That then transitions us into a mini UFO, where we're not only normal gravity, but upside down, prioritizing click patterns that you're basically forced to practice. The gameplay slows down completely, although we stay consistent with the size, this time with the mini wave. Because the mini wave is so precise, chances are every single time you get to this portion of the level, 95% by the way, it might not be the same. Especially for inexperienced players, you're not coming into this level knowing exactly when to press. Chances are you're going to need to readjust. Then after that wave, you're only 3 orb presses away from 100%. So considering the fact that Theory of Everything 2 either reintroduced or created fundamental gameplay techniques that we see to this day, that solidifies Theory of Everything 2 as one of the best aging levels in the game's history.